welcome. This is pretty overwhelming. I was not expecting to have this many people here. I thought it would be me and Brian and maybe 4 other people, but this is very overwhelming. And thanks to our mayor of the Town of Haw River, Galey Allen. She kind of sparked a lot of this and got a lot of you here that I was not expecting. So welcome again. I am Andrew Sam. I'm the Alamance County Task Force Leader for the Friends of the Mountains to Sea Trail. I'm newly appointed. Greg Yon was the Task Force Leader for this area. He is now Guilford County, and now I'm Alamance County Task Force Leader. So we thought we needed to do some celebration of all of you, because every person here is instrumental in getting this bridge in place. Every person here. So we're here to celebrate you and every inch of this bridge. It's about 60 feet. That's our goal here, is to celebrate you and celebrate the bridge and celebrate Mountains to Sea Trail and the Haw River Trail. So a little bit about, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but a little bit about the Mountains to Sea Trail. If you don't know what it is, or the Haw River Trail, the Mountains to Sea Trail runs from Klingman's Dome to Jockey's Ridge, all the way across the state of North Carolina. And it was a kind of a sideline in a speech that Howard Lee made when he was in office. He was a former mayor of Chapel Hill, and in one of his speeches, not as mayor, he mentioned a trail across the state of North Carolina, and that sparked this trail that runs the entire state of North Carolina, 1,175 miles. So yay us. Yay Impact Alamance for providing monies for this bridge. This bridge was money from Impact Alamance was given to us to build this bridge, $60,000. None of that was taxpayers' money. This bridge was built by Herman Johnson, and none of that money was taxpayers' money. $60,000 came from Impact Alamance, which is huge, and we have to applaud that. Thank you. I didn't actually mean it, but thank you. So other people that I really want to point out are Brian Baker, the Director of Recreation and Parks in Alamance County, and a conversation that I heard about from Mayor Allen was that, or no, it was Patty, excuse me. I'm giving you more credit. But Patty gets this one. Patty Johnson and I were talking on the phone, and we had not met before that moment on the phone, and she told me that the first contractor unfortunately passed away. The second contractor didn't have a license in North Carolina to build a bridge like this, so he didn't build the bridge. But Gil Johnson, who's standing right here, was talking to Patty, and he said, I'm not sure, I think the conversation went, I'm not sure how we're going to get this bridge built. Well, Patty said, well, my daddy can do it. And sure enough, he did it. And here it is. So yay to Gil Johnson, Herman Johnson, Kelly Allen, the mayor of Town of Haw River, yay North Carolina. Yay North Carolina Senator Amy Galey for being here and supporting us and supporting the trails. Yay to Stephen Ross for being here, former mayor of Burlington and representative, and Kate Dixon, who is here with us from the Friends of the Mountains to Sea Trail. She's the executive director of the Mountains to Sea Trail. So we've got a lot of people here to thank and thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for celebrating this bridge. And I'm going to cut myself off because I'm getting a little bit long. I could talk about the Mountains to Sea Trail and this bridge all day long. And Mayor Allen can attest to that. So let's get started. The first person I'd like to bring up is one of my favorite people, Kate Dixon, the Executive Director of the Friends of the Mountains of Sea Trail, to talk about the Mountains of the Sea Trail. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
I am so honored to be here, and what a fun day. And last night I thought it would be raining on us, and it's as beautiful as it gets. The first thing I want to say is I'm so excited to see this bridge in real life, because when Andrew and others first sent us a picture of it, and all the staff, we started just sending it around to each other, because not only is it it's sturdy and amazing, and we needed it so much, but it's also just beautiful. It's really elegant. And so we've been sharing it around and saying, we need bridges like this all over. It's really gorgeous. So congratulations on that. And I just want to start also by saying, I want to just recognize and thank so many people for making this possible, and the Johnsons for, first of all, for sort of the generosity of spirit to make this happen. And the vision and the initiative of Alamance County and the Town of Haw River to make as much progress as you have already made on building the Haw River Trail and the Mountains to Sea Trail. And also, I want to thank and recognize our volunteers, which we, just to confuse everyone, call our task force. But Andrew, as he just mentioned, is now our new leader of the Alamance County Task Force, and Greg Yon was leading it in the past. And we have lots of volunteers who just do so much to build the trail and keep it in great shape, and their skill and their steadiness in doing that is so appreciated, and it's really central to our work. Andrew told you a little bit about the Mountains to Sea Trail. Many of you may know a lot about it, but as he said, it's a trail, it's sort of North Carolina state hiking trail. It goes from the Great Smoky Mountains National Park out to the Outer Banks at Jockey's Ridge State Park. If you were to do it today, it's 1,175 miles, and 720 of that are on trail like we are on here. And the rest of it, at the moment, are connecting roads. And our goal is always to move the trail more and more off the roads onto trail like this. So this morning as I was driving, I suddenly started thinking about building the trail as essentially like an orchestra, because there are so many different partners that make this trail happen. The only way that we are ever going to have this all done with 100% off-road trail is because there are communities like this one all over the state who step up to make their part happen. And so it's really like an orchestra where the Town of Haw River is playing one part and Alamance County is playing another part. And you're sitting down and you're working to perfect your part of the trail so that the whole thing can be a beautiful symphony at the end. And so thank you for all of the work that you are doing to perfect your part of this great symphony that's the Mountains to Sea Trail. I just wanted also just to tell you a little bit about the vision for the trail in this area. The vision, the ultimate vision for the trail is that it follows through Alamance County. It follows the Haw River all the way down to Saxapaw. And then from there it heads up northeast through Orange County up to Hillsborough. And a lot of the trail has already been, the trail is built in Hillsborough. There's a lot of work in connecting trail there, but very exciting new progress in Orange County in getting permission for the first 3-mile stretch of the trail in that southwestern part of Orange County. So Orange County is doing its part in the orchestra to play its part to meet you all on the county line around Saxapaw. So with that, I'm just so appreciate being here and appreciate all of your work. Thank you very much.
The next person I'd like to bring up, the next person I'd like to bring up is Brian Baker. He's the director of Alamance Recreation and Parks, and have him say a few words to us. Excuse me for being rude. Thank you, Kate, for thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank all of you for coming out here today on a sort of muddy day. We have a hard time with these events trying to figure out what weather to order. We almost always order this sunny weather for the event, but we'd all been standing here over a dry creek bed with a super fancy bridge. We'd have looked ridiculous. So we ordered a little rain last night just to make it look good. But thank you guys for coming. I went back and looked at my notes this week to get ready to talk about this property a little bit, and realized that our first meeting here was in 2007, which doesn't speak well for our pace of progress, but is very complimentary towards our persistence, and that's all that matters. But I was working with George Nall upriver on donating the first piece of property that I worked on here at Glencoe Paddle Access, which is the trailhead for this trail, one of them. And he said, hey, would you like to have a sit down with Herman Johnson about his property? And I was very excited about that, and without question I said, yes, let's do it. He said, great. Well, we meet for breakfast at Western Steakhouse at like 6:30 in the morning, and I don't do anything well before 10, so I immediately regretted my decision to not ask questions. But I went. I'm glad I did, because I got to meet Herman, and that led to us walking this property and having Herman explain to me how he grew up here as a child and playing on this creek, and how that inspired him to want to share this property with other people. And that is really what the Haw River Trail and the Mountains to Sea Trail are all about. Most of us who love trails, who love nature, all have a pretty common backstory, which is that we grew up in the woods somewhere in the middle of nowhere, just exploring, just finding creeks like this and trying to figure out where they came from, and spending hours in these woods. And we didn't worry about who owned it. We didn't worry about no trespassing signs or purple paint on trees or all the obstacles we have today. And that is not an opportunity that really exists for young people anymore. You don't just set them loose and say, well, go walk. Don't worry about who owns it, you're fine. That doesn't happen, and that's why we work so hard to build places like this. Safe, legal places for people to explore the river, explore the incredible natural resources that we have here in Alamance County. So I can't think of a better way to celebrate that than here with Herman. A guy who grew up playing here, who was inspired to build a raft and float to the ocean twice, who was inspired to donate this property for other people to share, and finally had to build his own bridge over this creek just to get it done. So thank you so much to Herman. Thank you to Impact Alamance for funding this. Thanks to the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund and our elected state representatives here who keep that trust fund strong to help us do projects like this. Lastly, I want to thank the Friends of the Mountains to Sea Trail, our Alamance Park staff, and all the volunteers who have worked on this stretch of trail for a very long time. So, thanks.
Thank you, Brian Baker. We appreciate your words. So next up is somebody I met just recently and have become very fond of. The mayor of the Town of Haw River, Kelly Allen.
Well, good morning and welcome to the historic town of Haw River. Whenever I talk about our town, besides the history, I always bring up the river, which Haw River is called the Mighty Haw, and also the Mountain to Sea Trail. I really truly believe that these were the deciding factors for the developer of the cone mill. When I first talked to him, I always give a little brief history of Haw River. You know, we're the oldest town in Alamance County. But I also always mentioned, you know, I told him, I said, we're on the river. We're on the mountain to sea trail. And I really think that helped in his decision to restore the cone granite mill, which is really important to the vitalization and revitalization of our town. We're a small town. A lot of our residents were not only born here, but have lived here their entire lives, Herman Johnson being one. And people from Haw River love this town. There were a lot of mill families. Their parents worked in the mills. They grew up, as Brian said, running all over the land. And they love this town with a passion. We are so lucky that they had a problem finding someone to build this bridge over Boyds Creek. And it was a longtime resident, Herman Johnson, who stepped up because of his love of this town and stepped up to see this project go forward. And we are not just here for a ribbon cutting, but to honor Herman Johnson for being the resident that stepped up to this challenge to fix this beautiful bridge for the Mountain to Sea Trail. And I would also like to recognize former Representative Steve Ross, who was instrumental in getting the historic tax credits reinstated, and all that has benefited all of North Carolina. And we are now, the developer that did Cone is now going to do the Tabadri, which our town is landlocked, and this is what we really definitely needed to help us out. And he also was in on the groundwork of the Mountain to Sea Trail, which I'm sure he will inform everybody when he steps up to speak. And also Senator Amy Galey. Both of these representatives have worked tirelessly for Alamance County, Guilford County, and all of North Carolina. So with that being said, it is my honor to introduce Senator Amy Galey, who will introduce Representative Steve Ross. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Allen. It's really good to see everybody here today. Brian Baker stole some of my material when he thanked everybody, and I don't want to do that all again, but I definitely want to take a special moment to say my personal thanks to Mr. Johnson for just being such a great contributor to our community and having the foresight to build this bridge. Not only that, but to make this property accessible. And I also want to thank Mayor Allen. I don't see any other mayors from Alamance County here, so I think I can say this, that there's no better mayor in Alamance County than Kelly Allen. So good morning. So what a wonderful day to celebrate the opening of this bridge and path by this river, a part of the Mountains to the Sea Trail. And I want to take a minute this morning, or a few minutes, just to think about the river and what an enormous role it has in human thought. Genesis tells us that there was a river in the Garden of Eden, and when it left the garden, that river branched into 4 streams. Greek mythology included the idea of the river Styx, which separated the earth from the underworld. Ancient Egyptian culture was dominated by the Nile and its river cycles. The great rivers of the world include the Ganges, the Yangtze, the Amazon, and the mighty Mississippi. Now, the Haw River is not a world-famous river, but it is still an important river because it is our river and because all rivers are important. This particular spot is important also because it is a connection across our state, uniting western North Carolina and eastern North Carolina. We drive over and around the Haw River almost every day and do not stop to think about how good the Lord was to give us this river and our community and what rivers mean to us. The book Siddhartha by the German writer Herman Hesse was written in 1922, and it has a passage that addresses the secrets hidden by a river. And I hope you'll be patient. I wanted to share this particular passage with you today. Writing of the thoughts of the books he read, we learn. Tenderly he gazed into the translucent greenness of the flowing water, at the crystalline lines of the mysterious designs it made. He saw pale pearls rising out of the depths, and still bubbles floating on the surface with the image of the blue sky in them. The river looked at him with 1,000 eyes, green ones, white ones, crystal ones, sky blue ones. How he loved this river, how it charmed him, how grateful he was to it. In his heart he heard the voice speaking the newly awakened voice, and it said to him, "Love this river, stay by it, learn from it." Oh yes, he wanted to learn from it, to listen to it. Whoever could understand this river and its mysteries, it seemed to him, would also understand many other things, many mysteries, all mysteries. Among the mysteries of the river today, however, he saw only one that gripped his soul. He saw that the river flowed and flowed, flowed ever onward, and yet was always there, always the same, yet every moment new. Oh, if one could grasp that, could understand that. He did not understand or grasp it, felt only an inkling stir, a distant memory, divine voices. So we pause on this day in late October to dedicate this bridge, to thank Mr. Johnson for his efforts and work in placing it here. And we come to learn from the Haw River, to listen to it and think about its mysteries. We are grateful for this water and plants and wildlife and a place for people to come to celebrate and enjoy nature. We are grateful to be part of the network that unites our dear and beloved state. We pause to say to the future people of Alamance County in North Carolina, this bridge is for you because we think that rivers and connections are important. This is one way our hand of the past will reach into the future. So thank you for joining us today, and it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Representative Steve Ross.
Thank you, Senator Galey. I'm not going to use notes, and the reason for that is because I'm one of those people that Brian talked about earlier that grew up on this river. In fact, exactly on the other side of this river as a youth, every day of my life, we played and grew up right up and down the banks on the other side of the river. And that was back at a time when the river was not appreciated. We would come down and take bets as to what color it would be that day. But as a kid, I always wondered, what was there before that? Many of you that know history of places like this know that there were Native American trading paths that went up and down this river. In fact, I found one of my life treasures just on the bank on the other side, and it was an arrowhead, perfectly preserved arrowhead, and I still have it today. And I used to wonder what the river looked like at that time. And I envisioned a day when the river would be appreciated, a day when activities and things would happen on the river. You'd actually be able to catch fish again. And I thought, maybe in my lifetime I'll see that. And I'm going to fast forward to when I was chairman of the Piedmont Triad Council of Governments, and we were trying to make a decision back in, I think, Brian and I were talking about it, 2004, 2005, as to where to locate the Mountains to the Sea Trail. And of course, I was a little biased. As chairman, I had a little bit of a vote. And so we were able to locate this piece of the trail right down the Haw River. And so that vision that I had as a kid was beginning to come to reality. The only problem was I thought at that time, that's a mammoth task, from the mountains to the sea. I won't see it in my lifetime. And here we are, fast forward, 15 years later from that point, and look at the incredible progress that's been made. And part of that is because of the buy-in from the communities, the counties, the cities. I was also at that time part of the city council and mayor in Burlington, and we just embraced the idea of a trail coming through Alamance County, coming through the Burlington portion of the county. We embraced the idea of other cities and municipalities in Alamance County getting on board and trying to help with this. We had no idea that there would be so many volunteers that stepped up and made this happen. And, you know, I've got to tell you, today I could just sit here and just take it in all day long because of the work that you've done to make this a reality. I'll call it a dream come true, because this is vastly different than what we had many, many years ago. And I see a future where trails like this, clean rivers, and the things that go with that will be so much more appreciated as we go forward, as we preserve North Carolina, as we preserve the natural beauty and the things that were here from the beginning, back when, as I said, Native Americans lived off this river and had trading paths through here. This is an incredible resource that we have in Alamance County, and for so many years it went unappreciated. And now, you know, thanks to people like Mayor Allen and the Town of Haw River, they've done a great job in incorporating the trail. She mentioned the textile mill. That was another vision I had, was that we restore all the textile mills up and down the river. That's actually happening. So it's just an incredible vision that is coming to pass, and I'm so excited about it because I actually lived long enough to see it coming true. And I know all of you are excited about what's been accomplished. This bridge is incredible. I had no idea when I came down today that it was going to be complete and be this kind of a structure. And it's just I'm just amazed at the work that went into this, and how hearing the stories about how it happened. I'll have to say one thing as I close. It's already been mentioned that Herman Johnson built the raft and went down the river twice to Wilmington. Me and my friends actually tried that a couple of times and only made it as far as the first obstruction and had to turn back. I'm amazed that just shows the tenacity and you know, the willpower of somebody that can build a raft here and actually go all the way down the river. I'm impressed with that, and I wish that maybe we had accomplished that, but didn't get it done. But I want to thank all of those involved in making this trail happen, not just here in Alamance County, but throughout the entire state. The communities that are coming together, the counties, the municipalities, all the volunteers. Building trails is not easy. I did it when I was in Scouts. It's very hard. And what I see that has happened here is just, it's amazing. And I just want to thank you all for what you've done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Mr. Ross. We appreciate your words, and we're going to move on to Herman Johnson. I'd like to introduce Herman Johnson. He's the bridge builder, the landowner, the legend in Alamance County. One of my heroes now, after reading his book. So with no further ado, here's Herman Johnson.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for the kind words. It's got me looking around to see who this fella is. And I've got a little thing drawn up here, and I've been cautioned to stay on script, so I won't be long. Let me get my glasses on. Well, first thing I got here, good morning. It's nice to see all you folks. I won't try to mention anybody's names. Can you? Hold it close.
There we go.
Well, I'll start over again. Good morning. It's good to see all you folks. Sorry the weather didn't cooperate. Of course, it looks a whole lot better now than it did when I wrote this. My name's Herman Johnson, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about the bridge. On January 4th, 1941, I was born in a log cabin right through these woods, right across Haw River Hopedale Road. I have lived in Haw River for 80 years plus. My grandparents owned the farm where the bridge is constructed and where we're sitting today. And I keep losing my place, but I'll find it here. My cousins and I spent many a day playing and exploring along the banks of this creek and the river over there. We often camped, and I want to mention this, we often camped right over across. All right, I hope that works. Yeah, we often camped right at the mouth of this creek, right under those two big trees. And believe it or not, the trees was there when we was camping there. Haw River almost. Well, I'm sorry, I keep losing my place here. Back in the days, the Haw River was not a pleasant place to be. Mr. Ross mentioned that. Due to the water so polluted you couldn't stand it. And I always found it ironic that the river that gave life to the Industrial Revolution, which brought subsistence farmers and sharecroppers out of their fields by the droves for a better way of life in the mill villages, was the same river the Industrial Revolution killed. In other words, you couldn't believe what was in that river out there 60, 70, 80 years ago, and compared to what we're looking at out there today. It's amazing. It took in the 60s and 70s, it took the Federal Clean Water Act of 1948 being enforced really on the cities and industries before the river began to clean up. And it's amazing the transformation that has happened over the years to the quality of the water in the river. We witnessed all that firsthand and rode on it. This is one reason the Haw River Trail, which is part of the North Carolina to the Sea Trail, is so important to the people of Alamance County. Today, it is a place to explore and enjoy the tranquility of the fast-flowing water and its wildlife. And it really is. It's something. When Mr. Gil Johnson approached me about building the bridge, I'm going to start over there again. When Mr. Gill approached me about building the bridge so that we could walk over Boyds Creek. Boyds Creek was one of the biggest obstructions in let's just say from Hopedale to Haw River. So we've got the bridge. When he approached me, I first thought. My first thought was the memories that I spent running up down this creek. Mr. Johnson, he brought over the drawings to me of the bridge that the previous engineer had. His concept of the bridge that he laid out before his passing, and we was trying to figure out how we could get a bridge built and how we could get it within the boundaries of the budget, like most all you folks have to deal with over the years, is staying within budget. So we was trying to figure that out, and I happen to know some people over at High Point had built these trusses, and these trusses are built. Those two main girders going across that bridge are truss, and I knew a guy over at High Point, and he had some of these things that they had built and couldn't use. So I contacted our engineer, which helps me a lot with structural. He's a structural engineer, so he helps me a lot with the structural design of things. And I asked him, could we use these trusses and design them into a bridge that we could get across there? And he worked on it, and he come back with his design based around those trusses, and that was the main reason that we were able to keep the bridge in budget and get it built. It took 4 weeks to build a bridge using the trusses as a backbone, and one of the reasons that this bridge was built was so that my children and grandchildren and generations to come could play and explore along the river in the banks of Boyds Creek, like I did, and I want to mention Mr. Ray Manus. He's sitting over here to my left. He's one of the cousins, and we was all raised together, and he is the only guy that is left with me that was camping under that tree right over there when we formulated the idea of going down the Haw River to the sea. And basically that idea was formulated by sitting right there on that bank looking across that river and saying, somebody in the group. Now, my brother went with us, and Ray's brother went with us, and both of those fellas are dead. But Ray was with us when somebody in our group said, sure is a lot of water going down that river. I sure would like to see where all that water is going to. And that thing stuck in our head until we built a raft, and we went down the river, and I can say that we went all the way from, that first trip started down here at the trestle at Haw River Bridge, but we went all the way to the yacht basin at Carolina Beach. That's where we pulled the boat out at.
But tell them what the boat was.
Kind of deferring to you because you're a man that's tried it. You know what?
Herman,
I want you to tell what the boat
Right.
tell them
was.
what the boat was.
Tell
Tell them what the boat was.
The raft.
Yes.
Okay, I'll tell everybody what the raft was. The raft was built. The raft that we used was built out of 3 truck inner tubes with 2 pieces of marine plyboard, and we went to a sawmill and got some 1-inch 12 by 1-inch boards and cut them, ripped them for a keel and put it under it and lashed it all together. And we borrowed a 2.5 horsepower Wizard motor from a fella that Ray knew there that wouldn't run. and we worked on all of it together until we got it together, and we successfully made it all the way down the river. So Ray and I we made 2 trips now, and I can talk about this longer than y'all want to stay down here. But Ray and I are the last 2 that was on both of the trips. Ain't that right, Ray?
That's right.
And so Ray and I have seen all of this river from up around Ossipee, because we rode that part of it before, all the way to Carolina Beach. And it's quite something, and I wrote extensively about that in my book. Like I say, I can talk for hours about the river, but what people just don't realize is what this river has done for Alamance County. It fed most of the population of Alamance County. It actually fed it by the people working in the mills. I can't remember now exactly how many mills there was, but this river was basically controlled from Saxapahaw all the way to Ossipee or Alamahaw. and all these little mill villages springing up along the river is what Alamance County is about. It's the reason Alamance County is here, and the reason a lot of our municipalities is here. Certainly the municipality of Haw River. So, like I say, I could go on, and I just want to say I appreciate the good Lord giving me the opportunity to have this property and be able to donate. I think it's something like over 7,000 feet of it right here to the trail, and I don't know how this bridge would have got built if we just hadn't, if everything hadn't fell in place for us. So that's the reason for all this, and I appreciate everybody being out here today, and I hope you will take advantage of the trail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got me hooked up here.
Can't get away now.
If you turn me loose, I'll go back here.
Well, thank you, Mr. Johnson. We appreciate those words, and I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our speakers here, taking the time out of their days and coming and speaking with us. And I just want to mention one more time, Impact Alamance. Impact Alamance funded this bridge, and I just can't say enough about that. So the next thing I want to do is just everybody gather up to the bridge, and we'll have some of our speakers gather up, and we can all grab hold of the scissors, and we'll do a ribbon cutting here at the bridge, and say yay us, yay us.
Andrew,
Thank you.
can I take 2 minutes and add a touch?
Yes, please do. Yes.
I'm Joel Deaton. I was asked to be the task force leader in western Guilford County because it was all off-road then, and Greg and Jermaine were underwater with all the days they spent here. And I have worked on this bridge right there down the trail a bit. But what I wanted to tell you is in Guilford County, western Guilford County is the source of the Haw River. And we just completed the trail from the first road that crosses the creek, Haw River. And when we get a parking lot completed in January, we'll have a ceremony like this to open the source of the Haw River for you folks. It's just a great thing. Y'all been the inspiration for Oak Ridge, and they're very excited about their trail being built and getting it off the roads. The other thing I'll mention is the spirit of going down the river is not dead. I was at work about 10 years ago, and I got a call from my brother-in-law. He said, "Joel, can you come get me?" I said, "Well, yes, Sam, I'm, whatever." He said, "Where are you?" He said, "I'm at the Haw River State Park about." I said, "What are you doing there?" He said, "I'm scouting out the Haw River because I want to take my 3 sons down at high school, college age, from the beginning of it to Wilmington." So 10 years ago, and I said, "So why are you calling me?" He said, "You know, the river in this part is really not a nice place to paddle. Poison ivy." He said, "I've been on it for about 6 hours and I've only gone about a mile. It's terrible." So I went and picked him up, and he then did make the trip with his boys 10 years later all the way down. But he started a little bit further downstream than Haw River State Park. So we've got some connections with you folks also. Thanks.
Thank you very much. There's one thing that my wife has just pointed out to me. There are cookies on the table over here, individually wrapped. There's water. Help yourself.
And t-shirts.
And t-shirts.
You can, if anybody wants them.
Anybody who needs a t-shirt from the Friends of the Mountains to Sea, Kate brought us wonderful t-shirts. So help yourself. Let's gather around the bridge and let's cut the ribbon. And thank you, and yay us.
All right, here we go.
Yay, Herman. Good job.
4 people behind me.
Thank you.
Enjoy the bridge.